Hey, glad you could join me today. As always, it's a beautiful September morning in St. Louis, Missouri today. Hope it's wonderful wherever you are in the world. I was reading about optimism today. Optimism. When I was younger, I used to think, well, if you look at everything pessimistically, if it turns out okay, then you'll be exceptionally happy because you didn't think it was. But if you look at everything optimistically and it doesn't turn out well, then you're going to be extremely disappointed. I later changed my attitude on that, although I do catch myself in some negative conversations sometimes. And I get a little frustrated with myself, but hey, progress, not perfection. Excuse me. Okay, we're going to continue in The Power is Within. We are on where are we? Chapter 11, A Crowded Place. Hit that like button and subscribe, and thank you for joining me. I appreciate you. Without you, what would I do? I wouldn't be here. I have to have an audience, and I have one. So thank you for all the members of my audience and you who have subscribed. Join us Saturday night at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time for our podcast, The Power is Within, named after this book. Because truly there is power within you. I was watching Wim Hof. There's a good example. Check him out on YouTube. You think there's no power within you? Look at the things he has accomplished, things that were thought seemingly impossible. They can inject him with a bacteria that makes everyone else sick, but yet he can stop it from making him sick. How does he do that? Because he's tapped into that power within. Actually, I'm going to check out some of his breathing exercises myself and try them out. I've heard about him for years. I just never listened to any of the things he had to say much, but he's pretty amazing. So again, check him out on YouTube. Here we go. The Power is Within. You pick up your copy on Amazon today. It's a pretty cheap book, $9.99 or something like that. Worth the price. You cannot create a positive reality if everything living inside of you is negative. I want you to look back over your life searching for the years and events of the most difficulty. What was going on in your mind? Excuse me. Of course, you may not be able to remember specific thoughts, but can you recall how you felt? Were you scared, angry, sad? Did you feel like your whole life had spun out of control? Maybe you felt betrayed or abandoned. Lock in on one such memory and ask yourself, was the way you felt a result of things going on around you, or was it the cause of them? Mark, you say, my mother died that year. Are you saying I caused the death of the person I love the most by my feelings? No, I'm not saying that the feelings you took on due to your mother's death were the cause of many other... Back up on that. No, I'm saying that the feelings you took on due to your mother's death were the cause of many other events in your life because you did not know how to handle them. And most of us don't. Who teaches us how to deal with feelings like that? Generally. I remember the pain I felt when my mother died. It was excruciating. But by that time in my life, I had learned how to handle emotions of all kinds. What most people do in such tragic situations is either explode with feeling or repress those feelings only to explode later. Neither help you. Many people stuff them down with drugs and alcohol. I did that for years too. I still go to funerals where after the funeral people are out there drinking beer. It's their way. It works for them. The person who explodes usually does so from a position of extreme anger or a feeling of insecurity about his life. This backfires into long-term unhealthy relationships between them and the types of situations that cause the emotions. The person who represses their feelings also carries them around, falsely believing that because they didn't express their emotions, they aren't there. Grief and anger are a normal part of life, but most aren't taught how to properly grieve or how to dissipate anger. When my grandmother died in 1984, I didn't cry or express any form of emotion until nearly a decade later. I was taught from my earliest moments that such expressions were a sign of weakness, and weak people were useless. I didn't want to be useless, so where do you think I kept all those feelings? They don't just lay dormant. That would be too easy. I felt useless. Have you ever felt useless? Has anyone ever called you useless as you're growing up? Or treated you as a child like you couldn't do anything right? Because the parent had more experience and you were trying to do it and you were just learning, they took it away from you and said, let me do that. You can't do anything. You'll never learn. I caught myself saying that to my daughter yesterday. Yes. Do I want to pass on some of the same things that my parents said to me that that made me feel like I was useless and couldn't do anything? Of course I don't. We have to be aware. Sometimes we'll find ourselves saying the very things to our children that our parents said to us that we felt were detrimental to us. But the first part is being aware. It's almost like they come out automatically. But you can be aware of it. Just don't justify what you did. Go make amends. Take care of it. And I still have to do that yet too. Because I don't want her to think that. There's also a misunderstanding of what makes what. We think that these situations come along and make us sad or angry or happy. But that isn't the case. The situation only reveals what is already inside of you, forcing you to deal with it or repress it even further. Nothing can make you anything. You either are or are not. I still catch myself saying, he made me angry, like I am powerless over my feelings of what people do to me. I see a lot today about people getting offended. No one can offend you unless you allow them to offend you. I have a friend that says, no one can get your goat unless you have a goat to get, which means unless there's something there inside of you that corresponds with what they say, you should not be offended by anything. Someone can call me old. Okay, yeah, well, everybody's getting older from the time they're born. Am I old? Sure, I'm older. Am I as old as some people? No. Am I a lot older than other people? Yeah. But what does it matter? Unless you have something within you that you don't accept and embrace, that can't say anything to you that will hurt you. Now, does that mean people say things to me and nothing bothers me? No, that doesn't. But you have to be aware of it. It's up to you how you receive it, how you perceive it, and what you do with it. You do not have to react, and you do not have to accept it. What is it? No one can hurt my feelings without my permission. Okay. These situations or people that come along and reveal what's inside of you are gifts. And it doesn't sound like much of a gift, does it, if somebody calls you an SOB? But it is, if it bothers you. Whoever annoys you most today is your best teacher today, because they are revealing something within you that you need to take a look at. Something about them annoys the hell out of you because you have that very same quality within you, and you may be expressing it somewhere else. But if we focus only on the person we feel annoys us, we will never find out why this person came into our life. What is he there to reveal to us about ourselves? That's the key right there. Life is a big mirror reflecting back to us what we are. That's a tough pill to swallow sometimes. I thought about that in a couple of my past relationships. And I thought, man, how do I end up with people who end up using drugs and have an addiction? I just couldn't figure that one out because I haven't done drugs or drank or anything for, God, about 29 years, 30 years since I've drunk. So how was that? But what I discovered was I was just as addicted to the relationship aspect, to the, not to the person so much, but to the idea of the relationship. I had too much investment in the person and in the relationship, and thus it became almost like an addiction. I even made the statement one time that one of my girlfriends was I said to her that she was similar to, how did I say that? She liked to do a certain drug. And I said, oh, well, you're that drug to me. And it was almost like a Freudian slip. I should have known that, but I didn't recognize it at the time, because for years I couldn't figure out why the last 2 or 3 relationships I was in, I ended up with people with addictions. But there it was right there. I was just as addicted to the relationship, not sex. I can go get sex anywhere, okay? But to the relationship aspect. And I guess because I think a lot of times men try to mend their relationship with their mother and their relationships with their women, very common. Women do the same thing. Women have daddy issues and men have mommy issues. But a lot of men don't want to accept that, but it's true. A lot of times if you take a look, you'll go out and find that you have married or you with a woman who reminds you of your mother. And if you had a good relationship with your mother, that's great. But if you have unresolved issues with your mother, you may find yourself trying to fix those with your partner. And let me tell you, that doesn't work out too well. And if you had some bad relations with your mother or some problems, you'll find women with problems similar to those of your mother. In my case, my mom I love my mom. We had a great relationship before she passed on. And during the years, we were pretty close, but she was emotionally unavailable, unable to express any feelings or emotions. I used to make the joke, and it was true. She would give me 10 grand easier than she would just say, I love you, Mark, and I'm proud of you. They never told me that I remember that they loved me until I started telling them when I became about 30, when I started on this path of self-development, enlightenment, whatever you want to call it. And then they reciprocated and said it. So as far as I remember, they never said that to me. They never hugged me, never kissed me on the cheek, etc., etc. Now, does that make them bad parents? No. They grew up in the Depression. My dad didn't have a father. That's a long story, but his dad dumped him and his other 5 siblings off in an orphanage because their mother died. My mom's father was an alcoholic, a bad alcoholic, and I heard some wild stories about that, so I won't go into that. But the point is, when I discovered how they were raised, I understood that they didn't know how to show any emotions. They didn't know anything about those things. So how are they going to pass something on to me? They couldn't do it. But they did show their love in different ways. I always had a home. I always had food, clothes. They passed on a great work ethic to me. I never did without any material thing. Who's got a perfect childhood? Nobody does. There's no such thing. I know Corey Wayne says, and I agree with him 100%, that if you want to have a good relationship, you need to find a woman who was raised up in a healthy family. I don't know if there are any fully complete healthy families out there. In my case, the women that are attracted to me usually don't have a father. I'm not sure why that is, but that's the case. I can just about bet when I start talking to a girl, I'll ask her about her father. He's either been out of the home for years because they're divorced, or he's gone, or she hasn't seen him, or she doesn't talk to him, etc., etc. Because my demeanor is I'm a boss, I'm a leader, and actually I just told my ex-girlfriend who came back after 6 months, and I've been talking to her off and on for about a year. I haven't gone and seen her, but I just told her that she didn't know how to follow a lead. And she doesn't have a father active in her life, hasn't had for years. And she said that what did she tell me? She said that I wasn't her boss like I was my employees, which is true. I agree with that. But someone has to lead in the relationship. And in most cases, it's best if it's the man, because women act emotionally. They do not act from logic. And you can talk to any woman, she'll tell you when it's around her time of the month, they have a hard time being stable or steady. It's the hormone thing. It's not their fault. I'm not saying all women are like that, but I've been with quite a few women, and they'll straight up tell you, I'm not thinking straight. I can't, they get emotional. So that's just the aspect of being a woman. And with men, it's similar too. If you would want to look at it from a woman's point of view, men are very logical, and they don't have the compassion and the intuitive usually capacity that women have. That's why women are much better at nurturing kids and raising kids than men are. It's just, we're born with these innate capabilities. We're different, okay? We're just different. We're not the same. All right. You have an ideal life inside of you. Expressing these emotions that you've been carrying around and getting them out is like cleaning out the grime and gunk in an engine. So you can do the work. It is so your mind can do the work it's supposed to do. Then you're able to believe, and according to those beliefs, your reality will be given to you. You don't have to do it yourself. That is not your responsibility. According to your faith, it is done unto you. Now, do you have to take action? Yes, inspired action. But I've found in my life, anytime I go out there and try to make something happen, and I can make some things happen, sometimes not too good of things, it doesn't work out too well. But if I set my sail in the direction of where I want to go, just do the footwork, do what's in front of me, do what's presented to me at each moment to do, I will be led to my desired result. But it's when I try to make things happen. I'll give you an example. When I was boxing, as an amateur and professional boxer, I trained hard, okay? But you know what? I was always had a low grade cold, or I was always like half sick, or I was injured all the time because I was trying to make myself be the best fighter ever by working harder than anyone else. Now you have this mindset out there that tells you got to do one more rep, no days off, etc., etc. Maybe that worked for some people, but there's people like me. I needed a coach to tell me not to work out so much. And actually he did, but I wouldn't listen to him. So thus, I did not fight as much as a lot of people did because I was hurt a lot. I sparred more in the gym than anybody else did, and I did have fights. I wasn't afraid to fight. Well, I had the fear, but I did anyway. But I did not have the success that some people had because I was constantly hurt. I hurt my back, and well, actually I hurt it before the fight, and then I hurt it during the fight in 2 or 3 different places. Because I would run in the morning, and when I was working during the day, I was self-employed back then, I would be doing rolls and slips and jabs while I'm working all day long, as I'm walking here and there to pick up things and do things, and then go to the gym and work out for an hour and a half at night. Well, I screwed my back up. I hurt myself because it was just too much. Yeah, I won the fight, but at what cost? What is the price you're willing to pay for success? And then when you have the success, as I did in that, I had my first pro fight. That's when I really hurt myself training for that. It was empty because I believed the goal was the ultimate expression, the ultimate thing I wanted to grasp. When in the reality, the journey is the goal, if you can understand that. I heard someone say that the other day. I don't think I heard it said that way before, but I believe that the journey is the goal. And I've learned since then to set goals. I always set goals. I have written goals. Less than 1% of the people have written goals. I find that hard to believe. Do you have written goals? You need to write them down. Write them down. It makes it tangible. It becomes real when you put it on paper. And if you don't, then it's just something that floats around in your head. Write them down. Make a plan. Now, your plan is going to have to be flexible. It's going to change here and there. But that's the thing. You don't know how you're going to achieve your goal. But of course, you need to make a plan so you can step out there. Maybe you don't know what to do to achieve it, but you do know the first step. And actually, the first step is just write it down. Do you know what you want? Well, maybe the first step is actually to decide what it is you want before you write it down. Do you know what you want? Decide exactly, precisely what you want. Then write it down. Then make a plan. Then write down the reasons why. Why do you want this? Why do you want this? And you can have anything you want in life. You will either reap the benefits of it or suffer the consequences, depending. It doesn't matter. The universe or God or whatever doesn't care what you want. But if it's something that is detrimental to yourself or society, it will crush you. The same as gravity will crush you if you're under the ocean at a great depth. Those fish down there, if you brought them up, they would explode because they're accustomed to the depth and the pressure. And the universe will crush you if you head out in the wrong direction. I think of Hitler. Look what happened to him. Yeah, how did he end up? How did many of the warmongers end up who were responsible for thousands of people's deaths? Live by the sword, die by the sword. So they say, what you put out comes back to you. Well, that's all we got for today. I'm going to stop. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you tomorrow. Have a good day, and remember, be optimistic today. Eliminate negative thoughts. Put a positive thought in its place and focus on that. See you tomorrow.